Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is Thursday, February 12th, and we have a lot to talk about today. We're broadcasting live on Rumble, live on Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, and Apple TV. We're on Substack, we're on Facebook, we're on the Twit. For those of you who are watching on any of those platforms, make sure that you say hello in the live chats if you have comments or questions. The amazing, beautiful Inez Annie Cyrus is producing the SJ show today live, doing a great job and keeping an eye on all of those chats. But of course, over at Rumble, the feistiest chat out there. You guys look great today on the Rumble chat. CM1968 is with us. She is the first chatter. I'm commenting now because I have to be work at 11, but the circus that was the Bondi hearing was exactly that, a circus sideshow for Democrat voters as well as Republican voters. The victims just want justice, and it was a circus. You saw the headlines for today's show. Pam Bondi loses it on Capitol Hill. I've never seen anything like it. Screaming, screeching at Tom Massie about the Epstein cover-up when he asks her just a few questions that are a little bit too tough. We have the video of that interaction, about 5 minutes, that we're going to take a look at the beginning of the SJ show here today. I think that Pam has Trump Derangement Syndrome. It is extraordinary to witness this woman lying, cheating, stealing, hiding, disrespecting the victims, covering up for pedophiles, then doubling and tripling down on this, testifying in front of United States Congress to do the bidding and protect her boss, Donald Trump, right? It's just unbelievable to witness. She's completely unhinged and she's proud of it. As long as she does the bidding of her dear leader, as long as she is making Donald Trump happy, then she is perfectly fine with her performance. She's proud of her performance, and things just get stranger and stranger and stranger. CJP Rumble, reverse TDS, exactly. We're not the ones with TDS. It's the people who continue to worship at the cult of MAGA and rally around Donald Trump, who is becoming more and more indefensible as each day goes on. But the good news is the United States public refuses to let go of this story. And while recent revelations absolutely cut to the bitter, bitter core of the darkness lurking behind those who seek to rule, it is heartening to see the left and the right united in some ways for the purpose of exposing these perpetrators and seeking justice, bringing them to justice. And we're going hard for justice. Tom Massie said this: we won't see justice until rich men are perp walked and going to prison. And this is implicating everyone. Everyone. Fire Pam Bondi, fire Kash Patel, fire Howard Lutnick, who was linked directly with Jeffrey Epstein, named in the Epstein files, and one of the chief crafters of the digital surveillance state. Howard Lutnick will profit greatly from the creation of the police surveillance state, the digital surveillance state, linking digital technologies to digital surveillance systems. And he has to go. I think that Howard Lutnick at this moment is incredibly vulnerable. We now have Republicans asking for his resignation, also Pam Bondi's resignation. Kash Patel needs to be fired. And heck, let's go straight up to the top. We need to take a look at what Donald Trump has done here and how he is manipulating this process as well. There's a great piece from Seth Holhouse on power and the nature of power and how evil, straight up evil, wickedness, darkness can become an actual ideology. He reviewed a book called Political Ponerology by a Polish psychologist, and it helps to explain what we're seeing in Washington, D.C. Brazen corruption, illegality. They're operating outside of the Constitution of the United States of America, outside of the law, outside of any sense of moral decency, any type of principle that would help humanity to flourish. It is indeed a darkness. And this essay that was pushed out by Seth Holhouse, I've been on his show before, he's been on my show, helps us to understand. When I coined the term 10 years ago, megalomaniac, control freak lunatics, sociopaths and psychopaths, narcissists, pure evil, to describe the people who are running things in Washington, D.C. and running the world, I meant it. I don't think enough Americans and enough citizens understand the nature, the pathology that drives these people in positions of power, and how our apathy and the fact that we are divided here in the United States of America and interested only in bread and circuses and our own circumstances. It's the action of an apathetic civil society that has allowed the worst of the worst of the worst into positions of power. And now we are seeing the fruit of that. It's manifesting in what we're seeing come out of the Epstein files. And the greatest tragedy of all would be for these files to emerge, for us to witness the nature of the people who are running things on both the left and the right, and then simply ignore it and allow it to continue. We cannot let that happen. And I thank Tom Massie and Ro Khanna, a Democrat, and Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and the Republicans and Democrats who are coming out and speaking up about this. I wish that more Democrats, I watched a good portion of the congressional hearings yesterday featuring Pam Bondi and her meltdown. And I wish that more Democrats would show some humility and accept some responsibility for their role in covering up the Epstein files and covering up what was happening behind the scenes and suppressing justice. We have to remember that this Epstein scandal started under a Democrat president, the Obama administration. It was covered up then. It was covered up by Trump administration #1, then the Biden administration, then Trump administration #2. This scandal has persisted through 4 administrations and both political parties. And while many Democrats on Capitol Hill yesterday wanted to make this a circus sideshow, and they're using it to take out a political opponent and to drive the headlines against Donald Trump, his administration, and the Republicans, we have to remember that they did have an opportunity to address this when they held the reins of power. And that was one statement that Pam Bondi made. It was, she didn't want to answer questions about why she was currently suppressing things. She has the power now, but she isn't wrong in stating that this could have been addressed by previous Democrat administrations, and they did not do so. So this is something, both parties need to just tell the truth, right? Rip the Band-Aid off and allow these documents to come out and allow investigations to commence, prosecutions, and convictions. And that's what we need to go for. And I'm not hearing from anyone who says we'll never get justice. We can never get justice. We can. We just need to go for it. Trust the secret squirrel plan has this to say. Selective outrage by being outraged at both sides. Yeah, I mean, the selective outrage is not a good look for either Democrats or Republicans. And so today, a little later in the program, we're going to look at the video of Tom Massie and Pam Bondi. But first, in just a couple minutes, we're going to welcome into the Joy Virtual Studio a new guest, Theodora Scarato. She's the director of the Wireless and EMF Program at Environmental Health Sciences. And she is here to talk about something that is happening behind the scenes as we grapple with the 24-hour news cycle that moves at a breakneck pace. The headlines keep coming. We have the Epstein files. We have what's going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping, which is dominating headlines on the left and the right. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. We have absolute chaos in every aspect of American life, but they are pursuing policies. Trump is writing executive orders, crafting bills, moving bills through the House and the Senate. He is crafting emergency declarations, and buried in the news cycle is this. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, is proposing new rules to speed up the approval of cell towers and wireless equipment in neighborhoods, towns, and villages across the country, potentially in your backyard. They are actively seeking to suppress local jurisdiction, zoning laws, local laws, and state sovereignty to fast track the build out of the digital surveillance infrastructure. And part of that has to do with the erection of 5G towers. We heard Donald Trump talk about 6G. They're fast tracking that as well, with no regard for how these cell towers impact people's health. And we are seeing now more and more evidence that 5G towers are impacting people's neurological health, their physiological health, resulting in the growth of tumors, you name it. Theodora Scarato is an expert on this matter. She's raising the alarm bell about this. They are seeking to provide immunity to tech companies in this area. And yeah, right. DG8, I see you. And we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. So we have a lot to get to today on the SJ Show. We're going to go to a quick break in a moment, but when we come back, we are going to bring in Theodora Scarato for a quick update on what is happening with 5G and 6G and the expansion of these towers and how that can impact health. And then we have a lot to get to. We have the AI narrative. AI and robots are taking over everything. It is collapsing. An extraordinary story from Moltbook, which was supposed to be a social media platform and experiment for AI bots to interact with each other. And it was the proof, the definitive proof that everyone in the AI world, people like Elon Musk, were using to prove that AI was becoming sentient, right? Able to think on its own and for itself and become human-like, superhuman, even more powerful and knowledgeable and intelligent than humans themselves. Well, it turns out that was a complete fraud. It was completely fake. It was humans posing as AI bots, writing interesting things that then proved that AI was developing super intelligence. You cannot make this up. I have a ton here in my stack on the AI collapse. The digital infrastructure. I mean, we are seeing this in the stock market as well. I see here on the live chat, stock market is down over 500 points. Again, Pam Bondi looking to distract from her, complicity in covering up for pedophiles and child rapists. And she's saying, well, no one should be looking at this. We should all be looking at the Dow. Look at the Dow. Everybody's rich. Ignore child rape and child sex abuse and all of the horrifying things that we're seeing coming out of these these Epstein files, your 401k is doing all right. Well, it's not doing all right. They are printing money, billions, trillions of dollars. They're dumping it in the stock market to inflate its value so that you think you're rich. They're using AI and the digital revolution. Robots are taking over the world, right? To pump these AI stocks when there is no profit model there. They're going to collapse it on our heads. But that's what they want us to look to distract us from what is going on with the Epstein file. We're not going to be distracted. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to bring in Theodora, make sure that she gets settled in, and get into the show. We'll also take some of your comments as well. And I see you guys have a lot to say today. So we have a lot to get to today. Keep it tuned right here. We'll be back in a moment on the Shannon Joy Show. I am so proud to be working with Peter Schiff and Schiff Gold in 2026. There is no one that I would trust more to send this audience to in terms of a metals strategy, whether it's your gold and silver physically that you purchase and keep in your home or in a safety deposit box, gold and silver in an IRA, which you can do through Schiff Gold, or even investing in gold mining stocks, which Peter Schiff and his team can also help you with. It is time to get that metals strategy in place. Right now, silver and gold are soaring. Silver is approaching $85 an ounce, while gold is up over $45 an ounce. And people don't see this stopping anytime soon. I know it seems expensive to you, but I don't know that there is a cap to this in the near future. So you can get started now. I want to encourage you guys right now to go to schiffgold.com/joy. That is schiffgold.com/joy. Everything that you need, Peter's analysis, market reports, research reports. You can get plugged into his investment services, physical gold and silver, which we're going to be talking about this month, and also protecting your retirement with a gold or silver IRA. It's all right there at your fingertips on my page, schiffgold.com/joy. Hey everyone, I just want to take a moment to thank one of my longtime friends, associates, my financial advisor, and a beloved sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show, Don Pullano over at PCM and Associates. Don Pullano, as many of you know, was the very first Shannon Joy Show advertiser almost 12 years ago, and he's been with us ever since. I trust Don Pullano. He manages some of my assets and my retirement fund, and he's offering his services to all of you. He can take clients anywhere in the country and even across the globe over at PCM and Associates. And as you guys know, it is so important today. There's so much volatility and chaos. You need a human being, a person that you trust, and a person that shares your values. And that's Don Pullano at PCM and Associates. So if you are looking for someone to help you manage your retirement or have investment advice, please consider calling Don Pullano over at PCM Associates. His number, 1-800-536-1368. That's 1-800-536-1368. And of course, you can go to PCMPullano.com. That is PCMPullano.com to learn about all of his services and get in contact with his team. Again, so thankful for Don Pullano at PCM and Associates. And I think that you are really going to appreciate his services. So that number again, 1-800-536-1368 for a financial advisor that you can trust. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. We're having just a little bit of technical difficulty getting Theodora in and set up for the interview. Oh, wait, I see her there. She is in. I was gonna go into the Seth Wholehouse piece. This is a really good piece on power and evil as an ideology. We're gonna get to that after we talk to Theodora, but I do see that she is set up and ready to go. So let's bring her in right now. This is a topic that we've been following on the Shannon Joy Show for quite some time. 5G towers, the proliferation of 5G towers, EMF and its impact on the human body, and also the expansion of the digital surveillance state and the intrusion of the federal government into state sovereignty and also into local governments as they build out. This isn't just about 5G towers and potentially 6G towers. This is about the massive data centers that they are proposing that are sucking up all of the energy and using, power, electricity, and water in communities across the country. Manhattan-sized data centers, as pitched by people like Mark Zuckerberg. We know that the tech oligarchs and massive tech corporations and heads of tech corporations are linked with the Trump administration. Peter Thiel and Palantir helped Donald Trump win the election in the first place, put him in office. Project Stargate, people like Howard Lutnick, who are also aligned with this president, pushing the pedal to the metal in the expansion of this technological new world order. And it's incredibly dangerous in a million different ways. We are looking at bills that are giving immunity to AI build-outs and AI corporations. We are looking at legislation that is crushing the sovereignty and authority of local zoning boards and local governments. And we are seeing this happening in the area of the 5G towers and 6G towers. It's happening now. The headlines, as you know, are a mess 24/7, and they move at a fast pace. But behind the scenes, they are working on these projects that can be detrimental to human health, but also an attack on local sovereignty. Theodora Scarato is with us today. She has been working on this topic as an expert for well over a decade. She is the director of the Wireless and EMF Program at Environmental Health Scientists, and she's ringing the alarm bell about what this administration is doing to build out that technocratic infrastructure, in specific with the erection of 5G towers, potentially 6G towers, potentially in your backyard. Theodora, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your history and how you got involved. I mean, you've been working on this for quite some time, the impact of 5G towers and EMF on the human body, all of the studies that back that up. But now you are urgently trying to raise awareness about the fast tracking of the build out of even more 5G towers coming from this administration. So let's just start with a broad overview. How did you get into this area of expertise, and what have you found over the years that is so alarming to you?
So I got involved going back because I have long worked with children and families, and I didn't know anything about this issue 15 years ago. But when I heard that there could be an impact to children, I dug in. Having worked with kids who are prenatally exposed to drugs and so forth, that didn't seem to be something to just dismiss. But when I started researching the issue, what I found was a lack of government oversight. And we are still here today where the US government has failed to adequately review this issue, provide oversight, transparency on the issue of radio frequency, which is what's emitted from cell towers. So cell towers, cell phones, wireless, they all are radio frequency radiation. And if you take a moment to say, oh, okay, so, where's the EPA report on that? Or, where's the report that looked at the totality of the evidence? It simply doesn't exist in the US because the EPA was defunded years ago from this. So fast forward to today, they are fast tracking 5G, and you're right, they are already on to 6G, 7G, actually. They already have those frequencies identified and are working on how to integrate all of that into everyday life. While we're thinking about 5G, they're on to these much higher frequencies and more dense infrastructure, which will increase our exposure to this kind of radiation. The FCC, the US FCC, and the House and Congress are moving forward proposals that would fast track cell towers, stripping away local government control. So your city, your state power, your local community would have much less say. It would be really eviscerated in a lot of ways to decide where cell towers go. And one might be proposed in your front yard or in your neighborhood, by your child's school, by your local park. And you will hear there's not much I can do about it from the people who are supposed to be representing you because at the
Wow.
level, it's been preempted. We already have a bad situation and it's going to get worse. I should definitely say that.
Yeah. What specifically are they seeking to establish via executive order or legislation or through rulemaking in the FCC
Mhm.
that would strip away a local zoning board or a town or village or even a state level limit on how many 5G towers or 6G towers or 7G towers could be in a certain geographic area. As it is today, they couldn't, you mentioned your front yard, right? I live in a village. I have a front yard. Then there's a sidewalk. On the other side of the sidewalk, there's a public area. That's where they put the street lamps
Right.
and, these type of wires. Are you saying that they could slap down a 6G or 7G tower right in front of my house, and there would be nothing that I could do about it as a citizen or property owner or a member of a local, zoning board? Is that what they're trying to do here?
In many ways, and generally, yes. So that's your right of way, right? That's where you have, as you discussed, the poles and the sidewalk. And actually, if this goes through, then in several instances, so long as the company has ensured that it meets certain requirements, you will not have anything you could say about it because it meets the requirements that have been set out. So when I talk about the proposals, they're the FCC, which has been given a lot of the authority on this issue, even though they have no health or science or biological expertise. They're putting forward a proposal called Build America. And you can go to ehsciences.org and look this up about the FCC proposals. Now, they put out their request to comment on possible proposals, but they've been
Okay.
talking about doing this for, very clear that they want to fast track cell towers. They put it out the day after Thanksgiving break, and we
Okay.
had until New Year's Eve to comment, and then 15 days more for reply comments.
Okay.
So most people are completely unaware that this even happened.
Hmm.
Say we had a historic uh, comments that were filed
Okay.
of comments, cities, states, towns, big organizations. And we have actually collected all of that information so people can see and bring to their local officials how other communities are in opposition to being stripped of the right to say, we want it to look this way, or we want it to have a distance from
Right.
school or home. And yeah, that's what we're talking about. And then in the House, there's a proposal, 2289, which would also, it's 100 pages and it just has reams of ways that your, it's really comparable to the FCC proposal, but a little bit different.
Okay.
But in these two areas of our government. And if that goes through, it would yeah, it would mean that you wouldn't really have a say. You wouldn't even, y- you know, there's just not anything that you could do. And I have to tell you that right now, in about half the states in the United States, there are actually state laws. So we have different states. There's the federal, state, and local laws that all
Right.
come together about what you can do in your right of way
Right.
and what the rules are about that. But some states have rules put forward related to 5G which have made it so that people are waking up with cell towers in their front
Good.
yards, and there is nothing they can do in their right of way. Story after story of people saying, I wasn't given notice. How can this be put right here? One woman, actually, several people in Florida, for example, have these gigantic poles going up, and they
Yeah.
stand on their property and touch the pole.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Theodora. Thank you for your work on this. And I know that our friends over at Children's Health Defense have been excellent on this topic, and they raised a lot of awareness between Thanksgiving and New Year's. Notice how they slip this all in during the holiday season when people are very busy. And I've also been communicating with Raynette Senum over on Substack. I don't know if you're familiar with Raynette, but she does a very good job on this topic as well, organizing people in their local communities, towns and villages and states across the country to resist this in every way possible. But that is horrifying, Theodora, that people could wake up with these 5G towers. And I have personal experience with this. My mother's husband, we love him desperately. I mean, he's an amazing man. He's worked his entire life. He's been completely healthy his entire life, and they moved into an apartment that had a massive 5G tower, like right outside of their home. And within 3 to 4 months of living there, it triggered what he believes. And, they're going through the healing process now, which has taken well over a year. He's still healing from this, but it triggered absolutely debilitating tinnitus. And he has now had to do everything to kind of mitigate that. But he points directly to, I mean, he said not that it caused that, but he thinks that there was a tipping point type of factor where it just impacted. I hear these stories all of the time. People don't realize the impact of these frequencies, these radio frequencies and these EMFs on their human physiology. And that's why this is so important. Can you go? I mean, there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there. And people tend to think this is a big conspiracy theory that, they're microwaving our brains. I've heard that before. There is science on this that I've seen you point to, but help people understand the nature of the threat and the impact of the phones, the towers, and the increasing power, moving from 3G to 4G to 5G to 6G to even 7G, which you mentioned. I haven't even heard of that. Can you help people understand from a broad perspective, in a way that is based on the best science that you've been able to find about the health impact of these frequencies?
Yeah, there is an ever-growing substantial amount of science that's published, peer-reviewed, and credible,
Okay.
indicating that there are health risks. These are studies that have reported impacts. First, I should say the majority of studies show impacts, and you can go to Dr. Joel Moskowitz's site and look at so much science, which is on his website, as well as Dr. Henry Lai's
Okay.
reviews of the studies over the last few decades. There was a review in 2022 in Environmental Research by Alfonso Bomori, looking at all of the studies over the last few decades on people living near towers or
Okay.
mobile base stations, what they called in Europe, and found that 73% of those showed effects. And they fall into three buckets: cancer, increased cancer, change, biochemical changes in the blood that you can measure, and then also radiation sickness. So there you have the memory problems, sleep problems, tinnitus, and so forth, and neuropsychiatric
Mm.
symptoms that people report. There are case studies that have been reported, and those are different than large, human studies where they followed people for years, but where people who, and these are by Dr. Leonard Hardell, who's worked on DDT and asbestos for years and has studies showing associations between high cell phone use and brain tumors.
Wow.
case studies on people living near 5G towers has found that people developed all of these symptoms after the tower was put up, just as you talked about. And I have to tell you that we are contacted by people all over the country and the world who have the same story. It is the same story where they started to have sleep problems and all of these issues come up. And then they realized that there was a tower that was put on. Maybe it was literally, in some cases, right outside their window.
Right.
Or right, one man had antennas. So his bedroom, where his head was, on the other side, they had put an antenna. And there was sort of like a hole or it was an apartment building, and they started to notice this issue on the wall. And he also had been getting sick, and it all came together. He had to move out of the home. People have no place to live when they're very sick because it's hard to find a place with levels low enough for them to heal. So there's also a lot of experimental studies in animals that has been done. One thing that the layer as to how we got here is that when studies are funded by industry, and industry heavily funds the science on the issue of non-ionizing electromagnetic fields, radio frequency, cell towers, cell phones, so forth, it more often shows no effect. Whereas when it's independently funded, they more often show an effect. This is
Mm,
several analysis that have been published.
right.
So we have cancer, genetic impacts, DNA damage, sperm damage, testosterone decreases, nervous system impacts, increased blood-brain barrier permeability, synergistic effects, meaning the combined exposure between electromagnetic fields. So wire cell tower radiation is a type of EMF, non-ionizing electromagnetic field. And when
Right.
it's combined with another pollutant, because remember, we are exposed to toxins every day in our food,
Sure.
water, air, and they found there can be a potentiation of that effect or changes that you wouldn't see when it's 1 plus 1, just like when you mix medicines, for example.
Right. Right.
And then on top of all of this, there is um, with the industry, when there are studies that show effects, they will often attack the scientists, attack the science, create studies which are replications, even though they're not,
Right.
and downplay that and say that, or their friendly scientists will say that it's not established. And that's where we are. It's not established. But then the question is, well, who establishes? So we don't have any entity in the United States that has looked at everything right now.
Mm,
But who establishes that it is established? And there's actually these expert panels that have been put together that are often stacked with industry-friendly scientists around the world.
mm-hmm.
That sounds like a conspiracy theory, but yeah, this is in published papers that have described how this is going on. It's no
Mm,
tobacco. And there is a Harvard Press report that was done called Captured Agency in 2015 that you can read where he talks about, Norm Alster, the reporter, talks about this. Now, this is from 2015, talking about the revolving door between industry government,
right.
how the industry, the wireless industry is acting like big tobacco. And it has
Right.
gone on to this day. We are there is no, we are in the same situation where the FCC is led by former industry insiders and heads, and then they leave, and then they go on to lead the wireless industry. And we have that in place right now with
Well,
our,
yeah, and to your point, we're seeing this has accelerated under the Trump administration, where it isn't even a revolving door or done in secrecy. We're looking at a turnstile. Someone mentioned that. I mean, the rate at which they cycle industry insiders into government and then cycle them out of government to sit on boards and foundations and to act as liaisons to government regulators. You cannot even separate the two. And Theodora, we could say this about big food, big agra, big tobacco, big pharma, the military industrial complex, the educational industrial complex. This is a story that this audience is very familiar with, and that many of us saw play out during the lockdowns of COVID-19 and the rollout of Operation Warp Speed, where the pharmaceutical companies, I mean, they warp speeded everything. They fast tracked everything. And to your point about the cancers, we're welcoming an amazing cancer specialist to Rochester, New York on March 21st, Dr. William Mackis, who is doing groundbreaking work in alternative and holistic treatments for cancers. And one of the areas that he has discussed is this, the impact of mass vaccination, hundreds of millions of people vaccinated with an experimental product, and how that impacts the body, and then how does that then react with these increasing levels of radiation or electromagnetic frequencies from more and more towers, and towers that are more and more powerful. Like, what is happening there? He has said, and I have a video, we'll play this after we let you go, but that he is seeing, it's almost a new pathology. Where he's seeing cancers that you've never seen before. Growing up, when people got cancer, it was tragic, it was slow moving. Many times, they would be dealing with it for years and years, and a variety of treatments would work. But now, and this is I've experienced in my own life, young people, my peers, friends, young men, young women with stage 4, fast moving, aggressive cancers, colon cancers, and tumors that are growing at a rate we've never seen. What are your thoughts? I know that's kind of outside of the expertise of the towers, but are there any linkages there that you could see? Because the cancer thing is stunning to me. It's stunning to me. We haven't gotten numbers about the rate of cancers from the CDC for like 2 years. But I'm seeing in my own life, anecdotally, you mentioned cancers as one of those impacts of the 5G. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and when I say 5G, I should say 5G has higher frequencies, mid-band frequencies, and lower frequencies.
Okay.
When wireless first came out, I'm going to talk about wireless and cancer right now for a minute.
Okay.
We used a lot of different frequencies, but we were not using millimeter waves in everyday life. Now, and our phones maybe had 1, 2, 3 antennas. Now,
Right.
and then they had 5. Now they have arrays for the millimeter waves. And so for 5G, 6G, and the planned 7G, of which frequencies are experimentally in use right now. In fact, you can just look up 6G and 7G, and you'll see that industry is already planning how they're going to utilize these frequencies and how to have things that connected, which are far more than the cell phone. This is not about our cell phones. I want to make that clear. We're past phones. This is machine to machine. There's surveillance and cameras and all kinds of drones that apparently business cases include, like drones delivering things in your yard and things like that from the pharmacy.
Or Big Brother. Big Brother.
All kinds of uses
Yeah.
are in place for this technology. And when it comes to cancer, so there was going way back, the FDA. So let me take just one. How much time do I have? I should ask.
People are very interested in what you're
Okay,
saying.
great.
So yeah, I was gonna do 20 minutes, but I'm very interested in what you're
Okay.
saying. So let's keep going.
Okay. So in 1996, the Telecom Act was passed. And now, when we talk about industry influence and the revolving door, this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is going on just like with all the other corporate pollutions. This is going on with every administration for decades.
Yep. Yep.
The EPA was defunded in the 90s from properly setting safety limits for wireless. So then, for cell towers, cell phones, the FCC put down in 1996 limits that they adopted based on really the industry military needs, and also based on that heat is the only harm. So wireless is microwave radiation. We would not want to microwave our brains, which we actually are with this technology, especially
Yeah.
when you put it near your head. But
Right.
they took rats and mice in order to develop the limits that we have and what is the level of harm. And they microwave them with microwave frequencies, which are
Okay.
wireless runs on, for under an hour. Under an hour. And when the animals stopped pressing the lever for food as they had been trained,
Right.
that was determined, now under an hour, that was determined to be the level of harm. That is what our limits are based on that the FCC set in 1996. The threshold of harm that they're based on, and they went down from that number, was this overheating effect, not for cancer, not for immune system impacts, none of that. None of that information is calculated in the way our limits are set.
Hmm.
So, way back, the FDA at the time said, well, we need to study this. We don't have any long term information.
Right.
Yeah. And they recommended that the National Toxicology Program do a study on animals because it's how we test drugs, or less so now. But anyway, it's a way that we can predict what might happen in mammals. And
Right.
so the National Toxicology Program did a $30 million study on this and found what they determined to be a clear evidence of an association with cancer in the male rats. And then it was downplayed by the US and as
Right.
just an animal study that didn't apply to humans.
Right.
And we are now rolling out, and that was with the frequencies that we've used actually for decades and are still using, but with 5G, 6G, 7G, we're adding in much higher frequencies. And there's no pre-market safety testing, no post-market health surveillance. Like, what are the side effects? Well, how would we know? There's no way to report it. There's no one looking at that in the US government,
They're
actually.
not even studying it.
No.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So here we are. And there's also no oversight or enforcement that is in any way robust. It's basically the honor system.
Right.
When it comes to, is your cell tower compliant, especially the rooftops, which have a lot of issues because they're so high power. Even your cell phones. Cell phones can exceed what our government limit is when it's in body contact.
My word. So don't put your cell phone near your body, near your head, in your pockets, that type of thing. So what I'm hearing is this. The the electromagnetic frequency is being emitted from the towers, 5G towers, also emitted from your phones. And so we are experiencing them as they're talking to each other. We're getting it on both ends, the human. What I'm also hearing is that the expansion into 6G and 7G is not necessarily to benefit humans or deliver to us faster Wi-Fi or a better experience with our phones. This is to interface to service a network or an infrastructure that is digital and will facilitate mass surveillance, the collection of massive amounts of data, drone operations, camera operations. For example, we've had government officials at HHS say that they would like to collect more biometric data. So they would like to see more and more humans wearing wearables that will collect data and information on their heart rate, their body systems, all that type of like so, the 7G, the 6 and 7G would be designed to really capture this massive amount of information that would then be processed in the data centers that they're going to build in your backyard, the Manhattan-sized data centers that they're going to build in your backyard. So here's sandwiched between that are humans.
Right.
And it's not only, it's the frequency. So it's the number of cell towers, the more, the larger the volume of just existing towers is one area that's not good. But then the higher frequencies are then making them more impactful and more intense. So we're looking at really a squeezing in every direction. And this is imminent. And what you're telling me is they are writing into potentially the law and into rules and potentially executive orders, absolute power at the federal level in the name probably of waging the AI war with China or building the new digital infrastructure. And that's how they're going to pitch it to us. But essentially, they're just building a big microwave around all of us. Now, here's a question: like, do these people understand this? Like, why would they? They would be impacted too, Theodora. I mean, they don't want their own kids to be impacted, or do they not know? Do they not care? Do they think that they can somehow shield themselves? I've noticed something. A lot of the rich people, like when you watch like the award shows or, Hollywood, all of these reports are wearing more and more of these kind of EMF blocking, like medallions and materials. And I'm seeing that it seems as if people are kind of becoming aware of this, but this sounds terrible. Am I overstating?
Uh, I think this is an urgent situation needing immediate attention. And I want to touch
Okay.
on something you talked about AI. So the FCC's proposals also include preemption on AI regulation at the state and local government. So they also have in there that if there is any that those regulations would be preempted if it stops the companies from being able to use AI, and they have language in there, which really is just broad language, basically. So AI is in the FCC proposal as well. And about AI data centers, I should mention, this is really important. It's not just, so we have the wireless, we have all of this technology. Actually, everything you said was quite encapsulating and a great summary. But on
Thank you.
top of that, when a center is proposed near you, which it's happening near us right now, there's other kinds of electromagnetic fields to be concerned about.
Oh no.
Yes, in order to power this center, it needs a lot of energy. They often have to build a new substation. They have to have corridors where they're running the electricity. Near us, they have to build these new power lines, right? Because how are you going to energize this gigantic infrastructure?
Right.
And there are lower frequency EMFs to be concerned about. So when I talk about electromagnetic fields, there's a spectrum of frequencies, and it goes all the way from the natural, we have natural frequencies that humans have evolved under. Really importantly, this kind of EMF that we're talking about, be it cell towers or the EMF from data centers, it's artificial, synthetic, man-made technology, human-made technology, not natural. And in many different ways that I'm not going to go into here, but there's several papers that are written about it if you're interested, on the polarization and ways that these fields are just not, they impact living systems because they're erratic. It's like that it's coming at you several times a second. So
Mm,
let's go to the EMF coming out of the data centers and electricity. That can create elevated fields, just like if you're living near a substation. Would you want to live near a substation?
no.
That is something that needs to be mitigated, just like the noise and the impacts to water and the impacts to health from when you're thinking about data centers. There also should be, well, what's the EMF level going to be? What are the magnetic fields, the electric fields? Will there be impacts to the electrical system from adding that center onto the grid nearby that could create harmonics and interference in the electrical system in your home.
Wow.
And actually we're coming out with some stuff on that. So please go to ehsciences.org, our wireless and EMF program, type in wireless and go to our newsletter, sign up for it, and you will get our information on data centers, which we're coming
Okay.
out with, because it's really an issue that people need to think about with these facilities that is not being covered. And I am just so thankful to see all the work around data centers happening, because that's just part of the whole
Right.
corporate situation that we're in.
You
So,
know, Theodora, I really appreciate having you here today, and I should have carved out a little more time for you, and so maybe I can have you back on again as we move through, because I think there is going to be more legislation, there are going to be more attempts at this. But before I let you go, there are two areas I just want to touch quickly. I don't think that you're saying, people get this mindset that we're saying the answer is to go back to the dark ages, or all become Amish and never use technology, and never use some of the advances in technology. I've heard you talk about real mitigation and very impactful types of mitigation that can allow us to use technology and power those technologies in a way that is harmonious with human bodies and harmonious with our natural environment, and that will allow people to thrive. It doesn't necessarily have to be a complete, stop, but, we're going to the nth degree. I mean, we're moving so quickly to such an extraordinary place that I don't think that everything that you're talking about, I don't see anything in there that benefits me as a human. Being surveilled by my government, having 5G in my backyard, being, hooked up to a digital infrastructure, and having AI make decisions about my health and education and my children, and where I can go and where I cannot go. All of those, and none of those things sound good to me as just a normal human. But those are the things that they are using to justify this build out of this infrastructure. What kind of balance do you see? Like, what do you see as a balance with technology and humanity that would be reasonable that we could move forward to?
yeah, thank you for bringing this up. There are a lot of solutions.
Mm,
Can be fixed with research and design, engineering, software and hardware changes, prioritizing wired, excuse me,
mm,
wired technology, which is safer, faster, and more secure. In a lot of ways, there's unnecessary exposures that we're having that could be fixed. And the reason why it's more and more wireless that is being put out, and industry is saying, we want it, we're giving them what we want. But actually, this is a business case because it's cheaper, there's less regulation, and there the ways to make it safer do require some more money up front.
mm,
So there are published papers that talk about ways that you can make technology safer. I use technology all the time. This
mm.
is not a no technology. That is not where I am. I
Right,
love technology. I overuse it, absolutely. I'm here to tell you. And that's a whole other issue, right? Addiction and all of that. Uh,
right.
but it can be much safer from an electromagnetic standpoint if there were incentives and if there's public pressure.
Yes,
So that's a key thing. But what's happened is people don't even know they're being exposed because it's invisible. You can't see it, you can't taste it.
right.
That's and then industry has made it like we're a tinfoil hat wearers or something, when there is so much published science on this. So, and one thing I should mention is other countries, this is being pitched as a race with China and Russia, but actually China and Russia have much more uh, stringent limits of what are allowed from a cell tower as compared to the United States.
Wow.
Because,
Interesting.
yeah, they were working on, after the Cold War, there's been a lot of research that has been done, not in the United States on this, where they acknowledge non-heating effects as being
Hmm.
something we should be concerned about. Even
Right.
their limits are not fully protective in terms of what level was harm shown in a study, and then what level do we set it at? That's a whole rabbit hole, and many scientists would say the level should be so much lower. I'm talking about thousands of times lower.
Right. Right.
So,
Theodora, Theodora, now your website is, I wrote it down here. Hold on one second.
ehsciences.org. And we have the wireless program is in the ehsciences.org. Please sign up for our newsletter. Just type
Yeah,
in wireless, or you can type in FCC 25276. That's the proposal, to learn more about that. We have letter writing campaigns.
great.
I really recommend you look at our fact sheets and resources and educate your community and your elected officials on this. Have them, address this issue, because we need people to be speaking out, not saying my hands are tied. You
Right.
over and over again, my hands are tied. No, no. I'm like, no, your hands are not tied. You can write a
Mm-mm.
letter.
Absolutely. And we've seen local communities across the United States of America, probably about a dozen of them in just the past 12 months, beat back the Manhattan-sized data centers that are proposed for their communities. So just because they write it in an executive order or even on a piece of legislation does not mean that it's constitutional, does not mean that it's moral or ethical. And we can stand up and push back against these bad laws. Theodora, thank you so much for being with us today. The website is ehsciences.org. I will be signing up for the newsletter. This is a critically important topic that people need to be aware of because it's coming to a town near you. And we have to be ready to educate our neighbors, our friends, our family, and our locally elected officials, as well as our state elected officials, about their power and our power in fighting back against it. So great to meet you, my friend. Thank you for coming on, and I hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you so much, Shannon.
Okay, excellent. Wow, that is a lot. And we did not even get into how we as humans can mitigate, because there are a lot of things. I mean, you guys know I have a great relationship with our friends over at the satellite phone store, and they have a whole line of Faraday products, dark bags. What I love about Faraday, not only does it protect you from your devices, the Faraday hats protect your head from this EMF frequencies, but they also, if your phones or devices are in the backpack or the pouch or the bag, it actually erases your digital footprint. You cannot be tracked. And so I'm so thankful for our relationship with the satellite phone store. They have a ton of products over there, clothing, blankets, hats, bags, you name it, they have it. Satellitephonestore.com or sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy. But I do want to talk to Theodora again about other things that you can do. My mom and her husband, Rich, are on a mission. They're in an odyssey. They are fighting for Rich's health, and they are figuring out how to heal him. They did have to move. They moved out of the city and into the country, deep into the country. We have a great place for them, but to get as far away as they could from the 5G. And it has been a very long process, but I will share with all of you everything that they've learned at some point when it makes sense. But this is real. This is real, and we've been impacted in our own family by this. So we're gonna keep on this topic for sure. Theodora is amazing. And I do want to encourage you guys to check them out, ehsciences.org. That is ehsciences.org. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're not going to get to everything, but I do want to get to this piece from Seth Holhouse. I want to talk a little bit about the AI collapse, because even as we're speaking with Theodora about the warp speed, right? The fast tracking of the creation of this digital infrastructure that will service the police surveillance state, and the AI takeover of our government is what they would like to see happen. We are witnessing a collapse in the narrative of AI in general. And this bubble, who has told us about this bubble? Ed Dowd has talked about the AI tech bubble. We've had Jack Gamble, who has talked about the AI tech bubble. We talked to Peter Schiff about this, Catherine Austin Fitts about this. We have talked to Tiffany Cianci, some of the most brilliant researchers and investigators and experts on these topics. And they are saying everything that you're hearing from the tech gurus and the AI people is falling apart. And this Molt book story is unbelievable. So we're going to hopefully get to all that. We're not going to get to Nancy Guthrie, but we can talk about that tomorrow. By the way, we are going to have a show tomorrow, self-producing, the SJ show. We're going to start around 11:30 from my home. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. And we're going to go behind the Rumble premium paywall tomorrow as well. And then we'll also look at some of these other stories as well. But I do want to do this Seth Wholehouse piece on power and evil as an ideology. I think it's critical in understanding the people who run things today and the way that we as citizens of the United States of America need to see and address the people who are in control in Washington, both Democrats and Republicans. It's gotten really bad. And it's explained pretty brilliantly in this piece that we're going to go over when we come back right here on the SJ Show. Keep it tuned. I can't tell you how many Americans are now not trusting their food supply and our United States healthcare food system, because as you know, there are so many toxins that are being deployed through our food supply. And this is why so many Americans are now eating like their health depends on it. And that's because most disease does not start in your genes. It actually starts in your kitchen and in your gut. Our food supply has been hijacked. That's just the truth. From Roundup poison to mRNA animal injections, Big Ag and Big Pharma have strategically synced up to get people stuck on a subliminal medical loop. And the wellness company, they're no longer accepting a system where the health industry ignores food and the food industry ignores health. They have to work together. Meet Wellness Farms, a new way to fuel your body from a trusted brand who puts people before profits. So here we go. Hand-selected USA small farmed beef boxes, where the beef goes from a pasture to a butcher, flash frozen, and then right to your door. Think old school meets modernized convenience from the wellness company. It is the purest. So mRNA and vaccine free, grass-fed, grass-finished cattle raised on regenerative American farms, which is amazing. And these are family farms. And the animals are cared for in a way that restores the soil, protects ecosystems, and produces nutrient-dense meat how nature intended. Each box is unique, and it has unique cuts broken down by mineral and gut health focuses. No antibiotics, no hormones, just clean, honest, regeneratively raised food. We are thankful for, we do got the meats. We're so thankful for the wellness company and their support. Make sure that you always use the promo code MARY for any of your other purchases. But for today, make sure that you use Mary Farms to get $85 off your first beef box. I can't wait to try mine at 123.com/joy. Everything that you're going to need for preparation: generators, solar panels, Faraday products. If you want to disappear and protect yourself from the surveillance state, they have an entire line of amazing Faraday products called dark bags. They're always 10% off at the satellite phone store if you go to sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy. The satellite phone store has supported the Shannon Joy Show for many years. They are amazing partners, and let's help the companies that help keep the lights on here at the Shannon Joy Show. So if you are in the market for any of their products or services, make sure you use that promo code JOY and go to sat123.com/joy. That's sat123.com/joy. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. I was just chatting with Annie in the break, and I loved Theodora's spirit. We were talking about what a great guest she was. And I just love stumbling on these wonderful people who are so knowledgeable in so many ways, not hyperbolic or fear mongering or selling something or pitching something, just this quiet spirit. I just really liked her, and Annie did too. And so I think we're going to have her back on. I think that this 5G, 6G, 7G, data center, AI, you guys know we have been in this space of technocracy for well over 3 years here on the Shannon Joy Show. Patrick Wood, Courtney Turner, Aaron Day, experts on the technocracy and the ideology of technocracy, which is central dictatorial rule using complete universal surveillance, tying people's money with a digital currency into a digital score using a digital ID, and wielding complete, unending big brother control and surveillance in perpetuity. And this is run by unelected oligarchs centrally. This is the vision of Elon Musk and the technocrats. This is the vision of Peter Thiel and JD Vance, who's also a technocrat built by Peter Thiel. This is the vision of people like Howard Lutnick and the people who surround the president of the United States of America, who use technology to deliver to him the presidency, 2025. This is kind of everything. And this is why I'm so glad that Aaron Day will be guest hosting the Shannon Joy Show next week. I'm taking the family down to Florida to stay with my sister. It is February break. All the kids are off from school, including my husband, devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy. So we are going to be heading down to Florida to spend the week with my sister and her family. We're going to have limited programming here on the SJ Show, lots of best of interviews that you don't want to miss, but also live programming as well. Aaron Day will be hosting the SJ Show on Wednesday and Thursday of next week, live with guests, and he has so much to say and so many important things to say. He is one of the foremost experts on digital currencies and the creation of the technocracy. He works very closely with Patrick Wood, who has been studying this phenomenon for over 20 years. Remember that the ideology of technocracy, it's just like communism or socialism or totalitarianism, any of the isms. Technocracy is right up there with them. It's really a digital monarchy, rule of all by very few. They own everything. We have nothing. That is the essence. It's run by AI and managers who are elite and separate from the huddled masses. They see your body as a commodity. They see humankind as a herd, similar to a herd of cattle or a herd of sheep, to be used, utilized, abused, experimented on. You are the consumer. You are the product. You are the experiment, and they will extract from you everything they can, every bit of data, everything they can, from your natural birth to your natural death. And they are blatant about it. They are not hiding this. This is a dark, dark, evil ideology. It has infiltrated Washington, D.C., both political parties. And that's why we're seeing so much legislation. We're seeing the fast tracking of all of this. It's everything. It's everything, but it can be beaten. AI is falling apart. Now, the bad news is the bad guys are in control, and this is what they want to do. It's dystopian, it's horrifying, and it's here. The good news is these guys are not God, and they're actually pretty ham-fisted in a lot of ways. And it appears that the AI is not there, the technology is not there. And so for all of their grand plans, it looks as if there are a million ways for us to mess that up for them. And the beginning of that is knowledge. And so we're going to look at the AI collapse in a little bit. But I wanted to make that announcement about Aaron Day. And I also wanted to make the announcement about the Summit for Truth and Wellness. This might be the most important gathering that we have ever put together on March 21st, live right here in Rochester, New York. I will be hosting. It is on behalf of Americans for Healthcare Alternatives, an organization that is pursuing a holistic wellness center in Rochester, New York, brick and mortar, but they're providing great resources in their network. All proceeds go to benefit Americans for Healthcare Alternatives after expenses. This discussion about the cancers, the fast-moving turbo cancers, stage 3, stage 4, it's a phenomenon we have never seen in this country. And Dr. William Makis is our keynote. We're giving the entire summit to Dr. Makis to present his findings. He's the world's foremost expert in treating holistically these turbo cancers using ivermectin, fenbendazole, mebendazole, and also other protocols, sometimes alongside cancer care like radiation and chemo. But in some cases, we are seeing miraculous healings without radiation, without chemotherapy. And Dr. Makis is at the forefront of this. He has treated over 8,000 patients over the past 4 years with his cancer treating protocols. He has been granted his medical license in the state of Florida, and he is going to be pioneering these alternative treatments in Florida. It's unbelievable. Meanwhile, he is being persecuted in Canada, threatened with jail time. They're trying to put him in prison. That's how unbelievable this guest is. He is going to be live with us on March 21st. It is a Saturday. It is a luncheon and a full presentation from Dr. Makis. Sasha Latapova will be joining us. Dr. Mary Talley Bowden also live in Rochester, New York. You can get your tickets at theshannonjoy.com. It's the only place you can get the tickets. We are a hard cap at 250 people, and tickets are selling very fast. So if you want to join us live for fellowship and collaboration and this amazing presentation from Dr. Makis, where we will be supporting him, please go to theshannonjoy.com right now. That's theshannonjoy.com and sign up to reserve your seat and get your ticket. It's going to be a great morning, and then we're going to have a beautiful luncheon in the afternoon, plenty of time for networking and question and answer. I cannot wait for this. I think we're going to be doing some very important work there. Hey, for everyone who's watching on Substack, thank you guys so much. We're growing our audience on Substack, and it is amazing. SR on Substack, great to see you. Let's go to the live chat and say hello. The American Medical Association in 2016 wrote a report saying that it was unhealthy for people to live outside of cities on acreage because they want people to congregate living in tight quarters so that they can control and surveil them and control air, water, food, also EMF. That is a great comment, SR. There's a reason they want us all in cities, and cities are lovely, but let's be honest, it's much easier to control the herd when the herd is corralled into tight quarters. And this is why one of the ways that you can resist and fight back is to ditch the cities and move out to the country. And I think that's a great idea. I love the country. Ollie on Substack. They already know the health effects, tumors, and cancer. Yep. Arthur, under 45. Great to see you on Substack. Larry Kudlow is on record more than once saying that we are going to get 5G whether we want it or not. Well, it looks like we're going to get 6G and 7G too. And they're fast tracking it, just like they fast tracked the poison shots, which still, by the way, are not off the market. Kelly, great to see you on the live chat. Steve Hastings, great to see you on the Substack chat as well. Oh, with some advice, always turn off your Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi calling when you're not using your cell phone, laptop, or home computer. during the day when you're offline and not just when you are asleep. That's some great advice. He also says Donald Trump is currently building an AI data center secretly underneath the ballroom. We did a full story on this on the SJ show just about a week ago. And it is very obvious that they might be building a little ballroom on top, but there's a lot going on underneath that ballroom. And they are contracting with people who build underground digital data centers, fortified. And the blueprints are very similar than some of the data centers that we have seen being built underground in Israel. Great post, Steve, and I absolutely agree with you. So let's take a look at the nature of the people who run things today. We're not going to get to the Tom Massie video, even though it was delicious. Pam Bondi melting down, losing her mind on Capitol Hill yesterday when pressed by Democrats and Republicans on the cover-up of the Epstein files, the redacting of the names of the predators and the beasts who abused and raped and tormented and tortured young children. Part of the Epstein cartel, big names, powerful people like Leon Black, Bill Gates, people connected to Trump and Trump's White House. Howard Lutnick featured predominantly in these files. And I mean, unbelievable interview with Nick Bryant yesterday on some of the worst aspects of these files. The wheels are falling off the Bondi jalopy, and we need to push for her resignation. We need to push for Howard Lutnick's resignation. The calls are coming in. I think that if we get enough independent voices left and right together to push this, do not let the Epstein files fade away. As the American people, it's extraordinary. We really haven't. The culture has been dogged in terms of refusing to allow the media to distract us from Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein cartel, going all the way back to his original arrest in Palm Springs and the Miami Herald reporting of the original sweetheart deal that was cut for him by Alexander Acosta in Florida. That was during the Obama administration. That's when the cover-up began. It has persisted through Trump and then Biden and then Trump the second. This continued cover-up, multiple AGs and multiple attempts to suppress the reality of what is the Epstein cartel, a criminal cartel, money laundering operation of global proportion, connected to the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Trilateral Commission, Henry Kissinger, the Council on Foreign Relations, world global organizations like the WEF, and yes, the technocracy. The evil ideology that is permeating government here in the United States of America. Epstein was in all of it. As Nick Bryant said yesterday, he may have been, and that's given the fact that he was actually murdered in a federal prison. A lot of speculation now that he is still alive. But Nick Bryant saying that Jeffrey Epstein may have been one of the most powerful men on the planet. Tom Massie now saying yesterday that this scandal is bigger than Watergate. I'm proud of the American people left and right for not letting them let this story die. They tried to smash it with the crackerjack team of attorneys that were flown to Florida to deliver the sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein well over 10 years ago. They tried to smash it again when he was arrested and imprisoned in a federal prison in New York State and suicided, right? They tried to take this story out of the headlines then as well, but we wouldn't let them. And that's when hashtag Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself became prolific in the United States of America on the left and the right. Once again, Donald Trump promised to release the Epstein file. They tried to smash it again with the binder people in the summer of 2025. They tried again with the FBI, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino saying there's nothing here, nothing in the files, no evidence of wrongdoing. They're now trying to squash it again, but every single time, no matter what headlines they throw at us, no matter how they try to distract us, the American people want justice. And I'm proud of us. And we need to face this because we are facing evil of epic proportion. And Seth Holhouse, who is a friend of the Shannon Joy Show, his handle is Man in America on the Twit, and he has a weekly show, I believe. He wrote an essay about facing the evil and how difficult it has been for him. Understanding that the people who run things are perfectly fine with raping babies and children and hurting them. It's horrifying to behold. And it's a lot for a culture to grapple with, an understanding of the truly, truly vile, wicked, and evil nature of the people who are in control. And I include Trump in that, along with Biden and many in positions of power within both parties. And to understand this, and I retweeted this on my Twitter handle yesterday, he looked to a book that I've never heard of. It's called Political Ponerology, and it's by a Polish psychologist, Andrew Lebowski. I might be bastardizing his name, but I think it's Lebowski. And he wrote this while he was living under communist rule in Poland. And he began writing it in the late 60s. He was studying how pathological people, all right, bad, wicked, evil people who do not care if they hurt you. In fact, they enjoy hurting you. There is a sadism, a wickedness where they get great enjoyment in hurting you, harming you, humiliating you, and subjecting you. It's a pathology. The question is, how do people like that get into positions of power? And he wanted to look into that in terms of how they run in totalitarian systems. The original manuscript was seized and destroyed by secret police, as Seth Holhouse writes. But he later rewrote the entire book from memory in the early 80s after fleeing the country. And it wasn't published in English until a decade later. Now, this is what made this book so unsettling. It treats evil not as a religious idea or a philosophical debate or a characteristic of a person or a system or an entity, but as something very clinical, something observable, and something that you can study in the way that you would study a disease. And his core finding was this: societies do not collapse simply because of bad policies or mismanagement or corrupt laws or even corrupt people. There are liars and cheaters and thieves and corrupt people in all levels of government and corporate life and life in general. There are poor people who are corrupt and rich people who are corrupt and who will lie to you and might cheat or might steal. But this is very different than the pathological, sociopathic predator that can move into a position of power and use evil to wield power. He says that societies don't collapse simply because of bad policies or corrupt laws. They collapse when people with deeply disordered minds, especially psychopaths and extreme narcissists, quietly rise into positions of power and begin to reshape institutions to reflect their own inner world. Now, this is something, I'll be very honest with all of you, that I noticed in Donald Trump years before he became the president of the United States of America, in a very real way when I did my original deep dive on his history, his business dealings, his family, his statements in the years leading up to his presidency. When he announced that he was running for the president of the United States of America in the Republican primary, I did a deep dive. It didn't take me very long. I immediately identified him as potentially a narcissistic sociopath. And, I was labeled with Trump Derangement Syndrome. I mean, you know the rest of the story. Blackballed from conservative media, lost all the platforms. But this is one of the reasons that I have been so dogged in my critique of Donald Trump and his administration and MAGA in general, and the cult that has formed around Donald Trump, and the use of fear of his administration and his entity to literally take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement and shape it into his own version of MAGA. And that's why things are so unstable now. All right. The author explains that a small percentage of the population, roughly 4%, he posits, does not experience empathy, compassion, or conscience in the way that normal people do. And these individuals are driven almost entirely by self-interest, power, and control, regardless of the harm done to others. Does this ring a bell? Especially as you are filtering and processing the Epstein files and the correspondences between people who are in positions of great power and Jeffrey Epstein. Because of this, they are naturally attracted to positions of authority where they can gain influence over large numbers of people. They gravitate towards roles like politicians, judges, prosecutors, intelligence officials, corporate executives, bankers, media power brokers, and leaders of major institutions, also law enforcement. Anywhere that power is concentrated, you will find them trying to climb. And this is why the framers of our Constitution were so obsessed with the decentralization of power, the separate branches of government, and checks and balances. State government, local authorities, individual sovereignties, the Bill of Rights, checking the power of the federal government and that concentrated power, but also making sure that the federal government did not become corrupted through three separate and distinct branches which checked each other. Our framers understood the nature of evil and these types of evil men and how attracted they are to these positions of power. This is why the Constitution is important. This is why our rule of law is important. This is why it's important that citizens understand this in context with what we're seeing and witnessing today. So here's the thing about these narcissistic sociopaths who are running things today. Because they lack normal moral restraint, they are willing to do things that most people would never dream of. They will lie without hesitation. They will cheat. They will steal. They will manipulate. They will blackmail. They will destroy. They will murder. And they'll do this fully aware that normal people are limited by conscience and fear of consequences. We can't understand them. The 96% of us who have been conditioned to believe that they have our best interests at heart, we cannot understand their level of depravity. This gives them a massive advantage in competitive systems, and they know exactly where normal people will stop, but they never will. And I think this is what we're dealing with. I think that a critical mass of people in positions of power are the very narcissistic sociopaths that are described here in the book, Political Punerology, by a Polish psychologist who was studying, the nature of evil in a totalitarian society. I think this is what we're grappling with today. And I want to thank Seth Holhouse for presenting his essay on the book, his overview of the book. It's a much longer essay that I want to encourage all of you to take a look at. I have tweeted it out on my social media, and I will include it in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show as well. This is why we have people like Andrew Tate, do not obey. This is why we're seeing the depravity. They want us to see it. They want us to know we are subjects because they're narcissists and because they are sociopathic. And this is why we have to fight back, we the people. Whether we're Democrats, Republicans, left, right, enough of us are out there. We do not have to accept this, and we need to continue to fight it. So I want to thank all of you for being with me today. Thank you to Inez Annie Cyrus for producing the SJ Show today. We'll talk about Tate tomorrow. And we're going to be loosey-goosey. I'm going to be producing my own show, self-produced, no prep, no production, just you and me. And we'll talk about all of these topics and more. You can ask any question you want. I want to thank everyone who is watching today and also thank the sponsors of the SJ Show. Make sure you get your tickets to the Summit for Truth and Wellness, theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. Grab your tickets today before they sell out. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the SJ Show.